Hello everyone, this is day 2 of working on the portrait of my male model, and I'm going to start by restating everything in my shadows. I started already by putting additional coat of background color and working in the outer shape of his hair into the background color, so it's much less splotchy, it's very quiet. And I made this part darker and this part a little bit lighter because the light is coming from here and hits the back of the space here. That will create a little bit of a perception of air in the room. I'm just indicating where I think I want to cast shadows from his hair. And I'm going to start by restating pretty much everything, adding another layer of paint, but now being a bit more careful. And I'm using the same warm shadow color, raw umber, burnt umber, and cad red light and cad yellow light. So while I'm doing this, I'm checking if I placed everything correctly. Now I'm going to check the shape of his face. It's going to be lighter shadow on his neck. Don't be afraid to work over your previous painting layer. Nothing is too precious. Don't be afraid to redo and destroy the previous work that you did. Well, sometimes it destroys a good painting, but hey, that comes with the territory. So I'm using the same color on the lid part of his hair. It's kind of reddish brown. You have to be very careful with curls. No, not much detail. It's just a soft cloud. I'm just looking where the light is on it. And how the light falls over on this side, and where I'm going to make a stop. Okay, and oops, okay. That shouldn't be there. I'm gonna cover it up. Now I'm going to indicate where I think the mouse is gonna be. Okay. Alright, and now restate the light side. We'll do the same as we did yesterday. Venetian red, yellow ochre, and white. And you will see how much brighter it's going to be, because we have another layer of paint. Can even add a little bit of CAD. And we have this part going away. And again, while I'm doing this, I check that all the features that I placed are in the right locations. Okay, and the lighter light is going to have more yellow ochre and more white. Still a little bit of Venetian. So this is why for more important portraits we want multiple layers of paint, because you can see how much brighter. And just by doing a very light touch on the grayed areas, you can create grays without doing much or adding any color, really. Just by varying the intensity of the brush stroke and how much paint you deposit. So here we have another very important corner. Goes this way. We're gonna connect those planes. I'm just indicating the planes right now, where they belong. Let's usually highlight right here, and it connects to this plane. And highlight on the nose. It's a little too strong, this part. So here we started modeling the nose. And we'll blend here. Okay, and we need the lighter part. This plane, as you can see, I don't actually blend anything. I simply indicate the planes, and the planes can be as broad or as narrow, as small as you wish, but they need to be in the correct spot and clearly defined. That's my dog sighing as she's falling asleep. She's like, there's no hope for you. You keep doing this stuff which I don't understand. Why are you doing this? And why are we doing this? If you haven't watched the egg video, you should watch the egg video. I discuss in it why we learn to paint realistically, and what is the value of it in education. In general, it's training your visual system to observe reality very carefully and to understand what you're looking at. If you train your vision, which is one of the most important senses, you will be much more equipped to make decisions for yourself, judge the reality for yourself, and come up with good decisions, come up with correct conclusions about the situations you're in. It's one of the most important sources of information for humans. It comes from vision. If your vision is untrained and you don't really have keen observational skill, you're handicapped. That's why learning to draw and paint, art in general, were very critical parts of education, including, so art and music were requirements in the classical education. It's because of this. It's not enough to just play with paint and throw it on the canvas and charge millions of dollars and call yourself, abstract artist. That's just kind of, money laundering by CIA, and it's part of this whole destruction of culture and society we're living through. But it will pass. We will come back to what's important. I know we will come back to the truth, and learning realist art is learning about the truth. So here the plane turns, and it's still in the light, so I can't make it shadow, but we're just cooling it, so we have the same value, but now we have a much cooler grayer, and I'm just adding blue from his shirt to this part of the cheek that's turning away. We can put a little bit of it here. I have much drier paint today, which is not bad. It's easier to work with. It's also the same kind of turning plane on the side of the nose. But then it becomes much brighter, and we can carve out the nose from the rest of the cheek. I lost the highlight a little bit. You can restate it. Like so. And is another highlight. So impasto, or paint kind of sculpted and visible brush strokes is a great way to indicate the top of the form. And the general visible brush strokes are really appealing, and it's kind of part of your handwriting to develop a beautiful way of depositing paint. Okay, and the plane turning under here is grayer, and then eventually this will contain the mouth. For now, I want to indicate the lid part of the chin. I'm starting to work on the muscles around, facial muscles around the mouth. It's a difficult area, mouth. And in fact, this is how this is where the likeness resides, not the eyes actually. I mean, people think that the eyes are windows to the soul. Yeah, that's maybe true, but the likeness is in the lower part of the face, not the eyes. Here's a little bit of a facial hair. Just kind of make like Hair is always a mass. You know, it's not individual hairs. It's always a combined plain mass, especially here in the shadow. Do not overdo it. Use something that's there, but shouldn't call too much attention to it. Okay, let's step back. So I added some more light to the lit areas. I refreshed the paint everywhere. And now I think I can do work on the eyes a little bit. And try to finish the forms here. So the eye is a sphere, and it shouldn't be cut out. It should be connected to the face, especially we have very small painting here. Well, it's very hard to show in the video. You have to pay a lot of attention to each form. Each little form has a sharper edge and a softer edge, which wraps around the eye. And then we have some darker accents, such as corners. Corner here. Don't do eyelashes, especially in the small small painting like this. Eyelashes, just like hair, is basically a mass, a shadow. But the inner corner should be a little bit more pronounced. And we need to make sure that the eyes are looking in the same direction with the proportions, the distance between the eyes, basically the width of one eye. He's looking up. There's a shadow from the upper eyelid on the eye itself, and the eye that's in the shadow has much less detail than the one in the light. The shadow on the eye here. We have here. Yeah. So the corners of the eye are important. Corners of the eyes, corners of the mouth are important points, and we can indicate them. Then the white of the eye is not white. It's much less white than you think. I mean, because he has a blue t-shirt, we can add blue to. I make it a little bit warmer blue, kind of combining the skin tone color. And so here is the lightest part of the eye, then there's the rest is in the shadow. And just connect it to the face. It doesn't have to be separated. It's a bit of a pink. Okay, my dogs are sneezing at me because they want to be fed, but it's still too early. But they're trying to get my attention. Okay, and in general, it's a good idea, especially in a small format like this, to connect the eye to the rest of the face. In younger people, well, did not have so many wrinkles, so especially children have very little separation between the eye and the cheek. There's a pretty sharp edge here. And softer edge here. Okay, and he has kind of brown eyes, which in the light, because the cornea is transparent, so the light will deposit on the opposite side more than on the side facing the eye. And then the highlight is the top of the form. Here, a little too strong. Okay, so this one is good. The other one will have much less information, although it does have pretty strong light coming and hitting this part of the eye. maybe not so strong. Okay. So there's a corner right here. And we'll have a stronger shadow. And then there's a reflected light. And eyelashes here. There's just a tiny bit of white visible, but much dimmer, so I'm adding a lot of gray to it. And it's maybe still too white. Because the shadow on the form continuing here. And there's a shadow from eyelashes continuing, a little bit of shadow from eyelashes continuing here, cast shadow. And the rest can go into the space. So there's a very tedious kind of process, especially because, again, small format. This is a little bit easier to do in larger portraits, actually. Although larger format has its own set of issues. Okay, and then we see much more of the iris, because again the light is hitting it. And same place but smaller highlight. Oh, okay, my dogs are becoming very restless. Alright, so let's clean up areas around the eye. And it's a darker shadow right here. It's just typical because this is the the deepest part. Okay. Alright, I'm generally happy with the eyes. Let's step back. Okay, now I'm going to probably work on the mouse. It's a small form, but I already built the whole structure for it. So I'm going to show basically. So the mouse, again, we treat the whole both lips as one plane. Actually, it's 3 planes. So there's plane in front, which will have the most color and light, and then a more lit side here, and the side that's in the shadow. That's maybe too much, but so here we will have part of the mouse that's in the shadow. And then it's a good idea to indicate where the corners are. The corners of the eyes, the corners of the mouth are important landmarks. The upper lip is always darker than the lower, and it casts shadow. This is cast shadow, this is form shadow. It will be much softer. Then again it goes into the cast shadow. My dogs came back. And there will be a form shadow here. And the corner of the mouth. And a lot of the likeness and expression, facial expression, comes from the lower part of the face. So getting the nose and the mouth correctly is very important to get the likeness. Now, I'm not working on the commission portraits, I'm not concerned about the likeness much here. It's too dark, but and not much information in the shadow. Okay. There's some reflected light here, here. I'm putting a little bit of cadmium right here, but we need to make the lower lip now lighter. And connect it to the face, no cutouts. There's light coming here as well. Okay. And here the lip connects. It's very soft because the light travels right through. There's also a highlight on the lip. And we can work it into the form. Okay. Then it's usually a highlight here. And some facial hair, but again, no big deal out of it. Then we have, so let's finish that's pretty much, okay, so we don't want to cut out here. Okay. And finish the form here. So adjust the value in the forms, but not disturb the overall geometry. These are all planes, so just make smaller planes, but keep the whole structure together. Okay. Now let's the important part, usually asked about the how do you paint this feature, that feature, how to do the nose, eyes, blah blah. Do I need to know anatomy? I can tell you this, I don't know anatomy. I mean, anatomy as far as, where each muscle is and what its name, I don't know that. And that's not necessary for an artist. What you do need to know is construction. So you need to look at anything, any subject, human body, flowers, landscape. You need to look at it as a set of three-dimensional objects, and you need to understand how they're constructed. And for that, I highly recommend learning what's called constructive anatomy or constructive drawing. There's Bridgman books, small books, but they're extremely useful. And find a teacher of drawing that can teach you the constructive anatomy. And it's not something I can teach necessarily over the internet. It's something you actually have to do live with models, drawing from life. And I studied Russian academic method, and I studied in Italy with a graduate of St. Petersburg Academy, where I think this method is taught the best way. And the drawings take, full figure drawing takes about 20 hours, which, some people say it's excessive and it's too much and too tedious, but that's the way to learn. It's the way to really, but you can't just copy for 20 hours. You have to actually understand. Again, through that exercise, you have to understand what you're doing, what you're looking at. And to understand what you're looking at, you need to understand its construction. It's three-dimensional object, how it's constructed. So, yeah, just in summary, I'd like to recommend that if you want to really learn how to paint realistically, you have to understand the construction and find a way to study those methods of drawing and painting. And I'm just putting tiny amount of highlights, and if it's going to be too much, I'm going to remove them. But as I said, the color of the hair is coming from highlights. Okay, and let's see. The next thing I'm going to do is reflected light. And I'm going to put some blue from the t-shirt color, just grayish blue, into my skin tone. Make it a little darker because we're in the shadow. And see. So again, we have planes, which you will learn to see with the constructive drawing, constructive anatomy. So there's this front plane. So there's this plane, this triangle, two front planes. That's how you need to see the objects, and you just work on each plane separately. The jaw. Okay, so where you do need to understand anatomy, or at least know what you're looking at, is major skeletal structures. So for example, jaw, and that's where you need to make a sharper, not too sharp, we're in the shadow, but like a little bit comparative to everything else, a sharper edge, because to indicate that there's jawbone there. Okay. And work a little bit on the Terminator line. I think it's already pretty good, actually. I don't have a lot of problems with it, but what they need to do is this plane here. Just combine it. There's too much information. So a good realist painting has a lot of abstract parts in it. So while I'm saying, I don't want to be, just doing abstract art is not as interesting to me, but elements of abstraction, of good abstraction, are very important in realist painting, because that's how humans see. We don't see everything. We see only very narrow area on which we focus, and everything else goes away. And actually, a lot of seeing typically is filled in by the brain. It's kind of generated by your brain. So a good painting will take that into account. So that's why you cannot put a lot of detail everywhere. It has to be in important areas of the painting, and you have to decide which ones are important. And depending on how good you are at those decisions, that's how good your paintings are going to be. So that's why being able to create good abstraction in your realist painting is a very key skill. And again, this is something that you have to learn and develop all your life, and I'm definitely still learning. So just adding planes. And I need to think about how much I want to add in the shadow here. Some. Those are my dogs. You have to deal with them. And just a little bit here. And then we have reflected light under the nose usually. Typically I do something pretty bright, like cat red and cat yellow. It's tiny, light, tiny little area. So as you can see, it becomes really kind of tedious and slow, as opposed to beginning of the painting where things go fast. This is the stage where you have to start editing, thinking about things. How much do I want to bring forward? How much do I want to push back? Checking all the edges, values. Okay, let's step back. So I'm going to work a little bit on the hand just to show you how I construct it, and that will probably finish this demo, and I will post the finished painting. Yeah, I'll just final pieces of working in the painting. Yeah, typically so slow and tedious that it's really hard to do a demo of that. So the hand, his hand is behind, but his arm, sorry, is behind, and the hand is coming here. And this is where it's with arms and hands. It's a difficult. Those are difficult parts of the body to portray, and that's where the understanding of constructive anatomy, not just anatomy for the sake of knowing how different muscles are called and different bones, that's not important. But what's important is to see a three-dimensional object and how it works in space. So, and especially with the hand is very important and very difficult. Because it's a bunch of small forms and they can't be parallel. A lot of problems people have is, for example, making fingers look like tubes because they make them parallel and different. Here we go. So and that was even Rembrandt has that problem. His hands are not the best. He's not the best painter of hands. Who is the best painter of hands is John Singer Sargent. And making sure that actually the length of the fingers is correct. So it needs to be okay. and in relation to the head. Typically, size of the hand is size of the face. So maybe we need to, and when we work with photo reference, that's where many problems reside, is because of the lens distortion. The size of the hand might be not what it's supposed to be, and that's where you need to correct it, because as an artist you need to know this. Okay, and so once we've outlined that, we just create a single form, and hands are usually redder, especially toward the fingers, and we can see it in the reference as well. So this is exposed to light, this turns away from the light, and so this knuckle here, this knuckle is lower, and we see a little bit of a pinky here. Okay. That plane is turning away. This is coming forward, and the hand is one of the most beautiful parts of human body. There's such a gorgeous construction of it. And this is the lightest plane. This is construction of the thumb, which you will find in constructive anatomy. And as it moves away, it becomes more darker. It's still in the light, but it's a darker light. The edge, it becomes more diffuse. This edge is fairly sharp because we have bony structures here. And this part turns under, and we have a much softer edge. I'm putting a little bit of a background color to indicate that it's going away. And you can sculpt your forms like this. This side is turned toward the t-shirt, and so it will reflect the blue from the t-shirt, which is what I'm putting in here and here. And This will be redder and softer. Okay, connect the thumb. Inside the hand, reflections are much brighter because everything reflects off of each other. And okay. So I think this is sufficient for the hand for now. I'm gonna make this kind of diffuse. There's a shadow inside. And some reflected light. Okay, I think, well, just to provide some balance, I'm going to indicate the other arm a little bit, not too much. Don't know how much I'm going to complete this, but this is generally where it's gonna go. Okay. And so I think this demo is done, but I will continue, will finish this painting and post the final image. And thank you very much for watching Art Without Due Diligence.